Alright, so if you can let me know in the chat if you can hear me, that would be great. I apologize for starting almost 10 minutes late here. Sorry about that. It took me a second to get the stream all set up again. So I can hear myself talking. There we go. Okay. Make sure that my screen is set up. There's my face. Okay, good. Alright, so there's a bit of a delay between when you guys say something, when I see it, and then when you'll hear me respond. But that's how it'll work. I'll do this the same way that I did the debate. I'll write some notes down. That's actually a good idea to get my book out. I'll probably write some things down as he's talking. If you put your questions in the chat, or if there's something you want me to respond to, put that in the chat too. And every once in a while I'll pause it and we'll talk about it a little bit, and then we'll move on. So there will be a little bit of a, if you're following it on Twitter or something like that, which is what we'll be watching. We'll be watching the Twitter stream because that way YouTube won't get mad at me. I'm not breaking any copyright laws or anything like this because this speech is public domain, so I can't get in trouble, for copywriting this. That's why I do very rare live streams, presidential debate or this speech, because they're public domain, so I can't get in trouble. But yeah, if you're following on Twitter or you're also watching on TV or something, we're going to be a little behind that on purpose so that we can talk about it in the moment. And then once it's over, I don't know, we'll talk for as long as we want to, maybe a half hour or whatever, and then that'll be it. Hopefully we can get through this together. I'm not a big fan of Trump, as many of you already know, so don't expect me to go super easy on him.
Their health care.
I'm not very excited to hear what he has to say. I've been watching all of his speeches since he became president. I was really, really hoping that he would kind of change his tone after the election, but that obviously didn't happen. He's still very much campaigning, which is unfortunate. He's been president now for 6 weeks or so, and he's still comparing himself to Hillary all the time, calling her crooked Hillary. His attack on the media is pretty disheartening. The media, the news is not fake as much as he says it is. Sure, there have been false stories in the past. That's, that happens. But the people he is calling out, like the New York Times and CNN, are not fake news. And I said that in my What Happened to the News episode. So, I mean, even Fox News has been saying CNN is not fake news. And when Fox News is coming to the defense of CNN, you might need to rethink your attack strategy. But, that's what he wants to do, and it's depressing because so many people buy into it, I guess, and that's not the best. So let me know if you can. I can't even hear that now. I don't know what's going on with that. Let's see. make sure all of this stuff is working before it actually starts. I'm not hearing that, which is not a good thing. There is a vomit emoji somewhere. I don't know how to get to it. I don't know if you can. Yeah, there you go. I'm assuming you are not able to hear that video for whatever reason, so let me. I was able to hear it a little bit ago. Give me just a moment and I'll see what I can do to fix this. We still have 15 minutes before the actual speech starts, so we're okay. Hopefully you can hear it now, and it was actually not me. It's just sitting here. That'd be better, huh? Okay, it wasn't me. It was NewsHour's stream. I was just sitting here messing with it, trying to figure out what's going on, and then all of a sudden it clicked back on. So haha, not my fault. I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit. So okay, let's talk about what this actually is. Technically, this isn't a State of the Union. I know I named the stream that, but presidents don't give States of the Union, State of the Unions, States of the Union. I don't know which it is. They don't give State of the Union addresses their first year because they've only been president for like a month. So this is not a State of the Union, it's just a joint address to Congress, which is why that's the hashtag on Twitter right now is it joint address? No, joint session. So it's technically not. I'm calling the stream that for all intents and purposes it is a State of the Union, but from everything that people are saying, this is probably going to be a campaign speech, which is unfortunate because he's already president and the next election is not for 4 years, so I'd really like it not to be that, but I can't control what he says. Yeah, he recently held that campaign rally after only being president for a month. The CPAC speech, which was awful, so horrible to watch, but you know, I consider it to be somewhat of a duty as a citizen to watch these things, at least the major ones, in order to stay informed on what's going on, even though I'm not a fan. So I watch them, or listen to them at least, and it does get pretty bad sometimes, especially when he's just outright lying. And let's just call it what it is. That's what he's doing. He's lying, or he's repeating something he heard from someone else, which happens to be a lie. The most recent one, actually, that I heard was that he's saying that the national debt went down $12 billion in his first month as president, when it went up $200 billion under Obama. And first of all, you have to remember that Obama came into office during a recession, where the country was losing hundreds of thousands of jobs every month. But second, Trump hasn't passed any legislation whatsoever, including a budget. So he can't take any credit for the debt going down at all. Zero credit, because he didn't do anything to affect the budget. Congress passes the budget, the president spends whatever it is that Congress tells him to spend, and there hasn't been a 2017 budget yet, so he's had zero effect on that. So him trying to get credit for that is ridiculous, but also the national debt has never gone down. It doesn't go down. It just doesn't. What he may be referring to, even though I'm pretty sure he's still incorrect, is the deficit, which is different from the debt. The country always spends more than it brings in. That's just how it's always been. Not always, I guess, but how it's been 99% of the time. So for him to say that the debt went down is just a flat lie. If he's saying deficit, he certainly can't take credit for it, because he hasn't done anything. He hasn't passed any laws. He's signed some executive orders, which I've talked about in several of my videos, but no laws that would affect the budget. So, not yet anyway. So, things I'm looking for here, I'm hoping he stops comparing himself to Hillary Clinton, because he won. The election's over. He doesn't need to talk about, do you really think Hillary Clinton would be tougher on Russia than me? It doesn't matter. You're the president, not her. So stop comparing yourself to her. I'm hoping he doesn't attack the media anymore. He's not going to the White House White House Correspondents' Dinner. He's the first president in 36 years not to do it. The last person was Ronald Reagan, because he had just gotten shot which sounds like a pretty good excuse. Donald Trump isn't going because he doesn't want to be made fun of, I guess. Even though he's gone before and he gets made fun of every time before, but he doesn't want to now that he's the actual president. I don't know. Some of the stuff he's been doing, especially when it comes to the news and the media and calling them lying and fake and all that, that's probably one of the most concerning things he's been doing lately for me. Yeah, we've never had a president do that. And the other day, George W. Bush said that the news is important to be a check on power against people. Well, he said like him, meaning himself, George W. Bush. But you know what he was meaning when he said that. And when George W. Bush is the voice of reason, that's a problem. I can't believe I'm looking back on George W. Bush and thinking, man, I really miss him. One thing I'll say about George W. Bush is he was stupid, right? He was an idiot. Everyone knows George W. Bush was an idiot. But I believe that his heart was in the right place, if that makes sense. Like, he was an idiot, but he meant well. Obama was smart, and whether or not I think he meant well, but whether or not you think that is up to you. But when it comes to Trump, he's stupid and evil, and those two together are just a horrible combination. You can say Obama was evil, but he was definitely not stupid. George W. Bush, crazy stupid, but I think he meant well. And Trump is just evil and stupid. Which is why, I mean, when people are like, I really don't want Trump to get impeached because the backup is Pence. Well, you know what? Pence may be evil, but I don't think he's stupid. And I don't like having an evil and stupid person as president because that's just a bad combination. I'd rather just have someone who's just straight up evil, but at least a little smart, I guess. Paul Ryan also is smart. He's smart. Whether you think he's evil or not is up to you. I don't agree with his policies, but I think he means well. So there's that. We still have a few minutes here. They're still greeting everybody. I don't know who the designated survivor is tonight. If someone wants to look that up and let us know. The designated survivor is one person in the presidential line of succession, usually a cabinet member, who is like hiding away in a secret bunker somewhere. So if the Capitol building where this is taking place gets blown up, that designated survivor becomes the president. During the inauguration, it was the the Secretary of Homeland Security. I don't remember his name now. It's not important. He's not the person anymore. But if someone had blown up the inauguration, he would have become the president. I don't want anyone to blow up the State of the Union address or the joint session. And that would be unfortunate. But it would be interesting to know who the president will be. Okay, so now they're bringing in people and they're announcing them. If you've never seen, I'll unmute it here in a second, but this is a big old pomp and circumstance issue where they all just clap and everything. That's another thing. If you watched Trump's CPAC speech, he talked about how the press is not going to report that I got a standing ovation. Donald Trump did not get a standing ovation. It's just, why does that matter? It's just, the stuff he lies about just doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And it really bugs me that it matters so much to him. Because it's all just like his brand. He doesn't lie about any policy stuff yet. It's always just, the crowd was huge, I got a standing ovation. It bugs me, really does bug me, but hopefully, I really hope he turns that down a little bit for this one. And I just realized I hadn't tweeted about this, so give me a second to put that out there. I'll go ahead and unmute this so we can listen a little bit. As they fade out into
this program was made possible by viewers.
You know, I used to think that Viewers Like You was a company. I know that's one of those dumb things that you probably shouldn't admit, but it's true. I used to think Viewers Like You was a corporation, not, like me. But hey.
Welcome to our PBS NewsHour special live coverage of the President's address to a joint session of Congress and to the nation. I'm Judy Woodruff. This will be President Trump's first opportunity to speak before Congress. He said today the time is right for a new immigration law as long as both sides can compromise. Mr. Trump addresses a divided nation with high approval among Republicans, but disappointing numbers from Democrats and even many independents. He's also facing questions from Republican lawmakers on priorities like health care and federal spending. Here with me now at the NewsHour table tonight, our regular contributors, syndicated columnist Mark Shields, New York Times columnist David Brooks, and Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report. Also joining us are Matt Schlapp, chair of the American Conservative Union, and Karine Jean-Pierre. She's a senior advisor to MoveOn.org during the 2016 elections. And we welcome all of you tonight for the next couple of hours as we hear the president's address. David Brooks, it is the president's first chance to, I guess, make a second impression.
Yeah, I think so, and try to talk to people who hasn't already won over. Try to lead an organization instead of just being the person who will do everything himself because he knows more about everything than anybody else. He's got to rally a coalition. And so, from what we've seen in the excerpts, maybe a little of a softer, gentler, kind of roly-poly, gentle Donald Trump. What'll be interesting to me is...
Yeah, I really doubt that. Roly-poly, soft Donald Trump.
Gesture to child care, I'm going to make a gesture to health care, I'm going to make a gesture to immigration, or does he actually draw some edges?
Mark Shields, what are you looking for as we keep an eye on the chamber as the president approaches?
As a member of the Roly-Poly Caucus, David said, description of the president, who is a pretty trim guy, who doesn't trim on issues. But I think the question, Judy, symbolically, it reaches across in a great ceremonial moment for all presidents and for citizens, extends the olive branch. But if David's really curious about his getting into policy specifics, I'd ask him not to expect too much, because that is not Donald Trump's strong suit.
Amy Walter, as we wait for that announcement that the president's there, do we look for specifics, and does he really need to give
No, I don't think that most presidents do these as these sort of big vision statements, and a whole bunch gets thrown in there that they would love to do but are not must-haves. And it's also pretty clear, though, that the folks in Congress, his Republicans, want him to give them away, to show them where your priorities are, what we're going to be able to get done this year. That may not happen in this speech. Remember, this Congress can only handle so much. And getting through two very big pieces of legislation, health care reform and tax reform, that alone is going to take up all of their energy.
If you haven't seen the John Oliver segment from Sunday night about repealing Obamacare, you should definitely do that at some point after this. I'll probably throw the link in the chat. I'm sorry I have this section muted because I feel like this is more important to talk about than watching him shake hands with everybody, which is going to take forever. And I'm sure we'll probably pause it and talk about this a little bit when he gets to it, because I'm sure he will. But the idea that you can just repeal and replace Obamacare is incredibly complicated, but also annoying to me, because they want to repeal it and replace it with something that's 95% like it, but call it something else. So it bugs me, because why don't you just say what you're doing? We want to repeal Obamacare and put something almost exactly like it, call it Republicare, and take all the credit for it. And that bothers me a lot, because it's so obvious what they're doing. They're just wanting to take the credit. Why don't they say, let's repeal the parts that don't work and keep the rest of it? No, repeal the whole thing, resubmit the paper with a few changes. Like, no, just change what needs to be changed. Another thing, a lot of news lately, people signing up for their health insurance to get it for the next year. People who have never had health insurance before, but they're getting it. They go to wherever and get their help signing up for it, and then at the end they're told, this is Obamacare, and they realize, what? This is Obamacare? I thought Obamacare was like Medicare or something where you signed up. No, Obamacare is whatever insurance you have right now. Plain and simple. Whatever it is you have, whether you get it through work, individually, Medicare or Medicaid, it's all Obamacare. Because there is no such thing as Obamacare. Obamacare is just the law that changed how health insurance works. If you have a Blue Cross card or an Aetna card or Humana or whatever, that's Obamacare. You have Obamacare. And people are finding out that what they have is Obamacare, and the Republicans want to take it away, which is a huge shock to many people, especially in states that have their own health exchanges, like Kentucky. They call it Connect, K-Y-N-E-C-T. It's a Republican state, but they have this thing called Connect, and everyone's like, oh, I love my Connect insurance, and it's Obamacare. That's what that is. And they didn't realize it because they just named it something else in that state, and now they're finding out that that's what it is, and they don't want it to be taken away, even though for the last 5-6 years that's all they ever talked about, was that they wanted this government takeover of healthcare, which was, I can't remember what year it was, but one of PolitiFact's lies of the year. So, hey, looks like he's about ready to get started. Please leave your questions in the chat. We'll get to them as we take breaks here and there. I'll be writing down things as they come up, and we'll stop every once in a while. Hopefully I won't end up swearing or anything, but no promises, right? Let's go ahead and hear the standing ovation.
It's a first, and it's worth looking at it and listening.
Thank you very much.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and the distinct honor of presenting to you the President of the United States.
Another huge standing ovation for him. For those who are curious, if you don't already know this, Paul Ryan is the Speaker of the House. He's the one on the right. And the Vice President, Pence, is the President of the Senate, which is what I talked about in my last video. He is the President of the Senate. When he's not there, the Senate Majority Leader is the President of the Senate. So that's why both of them are there.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Vice President, members of Congress, the First Lady of the United States. And citizens of America, tonight, as we mark the conclusion of our celebration of Black History Month, we are reminded of our nation's path toward civil rights and the work that still remains to be done. Recent threats
I am not sure why this deserves a standing ovation. I don't understand.
Recent threats targeting Jewish community centers and vandalism of Jewish cemeteries, as well as last week's shooting in Kansas City, remind us that while we may be a nation divided on policies, we are a country that stands united in condemning hate and evil in all of its very ugly forms. Each American generation passes the torch of truth, liberty, and justice in an unbroken chain all the way down to the present. That torch is now in our hands, and we will use it to light up the world. I am here tonight to deliver a message of unity and strength, and it is a message deeply delivered from my heart. A new chapter of American greatness is now beginning. A new national pride is sweeping across our nation, and a new surge of optimism is placing impossible dreams firmly within our grasp. What we are witnessing today is the renewal of the American spirit. Our allies will find that America is once again ready to lead.
These things are usually giant clap fests. You'll see that only half the room stands
All the
up.
nations of the
But get used to it.
find that America is strong, America is proud, and America is free. In 9 years, the United States will celebrate the 250th anniversary of our founding, 250 years since the day we declared our independence. It will be one of the great milestones in the history of the world. But what will America look like as we reach our 250th year? What kind of country will we leave for our children? I will not allow the mistakes of recent decades past to define the course of our future. For too long, we've watched our middle class shrink as we've exported our jobs and wealth to foreign countries. We financed and built one global project after another, but ignored the fates of our children in the inner cities of Chicago, Baltimore, Detroit, and so many other places throughout our land. We've defended the borders of other nations while leaving our own borders wide open for anyone to cross and for drugs to pour in at a now unprecedented rate. And we've spent trillions and trillions of dollars overseas while our infrastructure at home has so badly crumbled. Then in 2016, the earth shifted beneath our feet. The rebellion started as a quiet protest, spoken by families of all colors and creeds, families who just wanted a fair shot for their children and a fair hearing for their concerns. But then the quiet voices became a loud chorus as thousands of citizens now spoke out together from cities small and large all across our country. Finally, the chorus became an earthquake, and the people turned out by the tens of millions, and they were all united by one very simple but crucial demand: that America must put its own citizens first, because only then can we truly make America great again. Dying industries will come roaring back to life. Heroic veterans will get the care they so desperately need. Our military will be given the resources its brave warriors so richly deserve. Crumbling infrastructure will be replaced with new roads, bridges, tunnels, airports, and railways gleaming across our very, very beautiful land. Our terrible drug epidemic will slow down and ultimately stop. And our neglected inner cities will see a rebirth of hope, safety, and opportunity. Above all else, we will keep our promises to the American people. Thank you. It's been a little over a month since my inauguration, and I want to take this moment to update the nation on the progress I've made in keeping those promises. Since my election, Ford, Fiat Chrysler, General Motors, Sprint, SoftBank, Lockheed, Intel, Walmart, and many others have announced that they will invest billions and billions of dollars in the United States and will create tens of thousands of new American jobs.
There is a lot to unpack there already, as not many, I don't know how many people I got here, but as some of you have already pointed out, there's quite a few things he's already said. Very importantly, this is the first time that he's even mentioned the shooting in Kansas City last week. I don't remember all the details about it, but the one thing I do remember is that President Trump hadn't said anything about it until this very moment. So that's one good sign, I guess. He is talking about how the Jewish community centers are all, not all, but many of them, like 24 a day, are getting bomb threats. Cemeteries are getting demolished. It's ridiculous. He talked about a new surge of national pride. I'm not sure whether that surge of national pride is good or not, because it seems to be a white supremacist pride. It's not like Americans were ever not patriotic. We're probably the most all about ourselves of any country, which is why a lot of people aren't big fans of us. He talked about drugs pouring in, and how he's gonna somehow magically stop this. As if you don't watch Bill Maher, a few weeks ago he pointed out that all the states, not all, a lot of the states that flipped from Obama to Trump this election, so from Democrat to Republican, have higher than the national average of opioid addiction. So a lot of the people who voted for Trump are addicted to painkillers, which are opioids, and narcotics, and not drugs that typically come in from Mexico, like marijuana or cocaine or meth. It's usually opioid addiction is the big one. He said that he was going to bring back dying industries, and he mentioned a laundry list of companies that have already brought back jobs, which of course he is taking credit for, which, as I said before the speech started, It's only the first month. He has done very little policy-wise that could have possibly affected that. He has, I will say this about him, he has talked to companies about making sure jobs come back or stay. But think about what that does. If you're a company and you're going to ship jobs overseas, all you have to do now is threaten that you're going to ship jobs overseas, and the president will come to you and offer you a deal to keep the jobs here. That's an odd precedent to set. I don't know how healthy that is, because who knows what the quality of these jobs are. A lot of these jobs are disappearing not because the industry is being shipped over, but because they're being replaced by automation. Pretty soon here we're going to have a big problem with taxi and Uber services because of self-driving cars. I don't believe that self-driving cars are going to take off as quickly as many people say they are, but they will eventually. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now. But that's several million people who are going to be suddenly out of work due to no fault of their own, other than just your job's not necessary anymore. He talked about increasing military resources, funding for the military. We spend more on our military than the rest of the world combined. I've never understood this. We need to make our military the biggest, baddest thing in the world. Of course, everyone wants to say that, but it already is by far. If you don't know who I am a veteran. I was in Iraq. Of course, when I first went to Iraq, we were using the same gear that had been around since Vietnam. It got way better, of course. So I don't know if he's like, we're going to get rid of all that Vietnam stuff and everyone's going to get new stuff all the time. That would be great, I guess, but I don't know how necessary that is because we're already pretty good. He talks about getting veterans the care that they need, and my experience is, I can't say it's typical, but my experience with the VA has been outstanding. It's already pretty good. I see this on Facebook all the time. I see, like and share if you think veterans should get free health care for life. We do. That's never not been a thing. We do get free health care for life. I have free health care for life because I am a service-connected disabled veteran. If you're not service-connected disabled, then it's not 100% free. It's a little strange, but veterans are taken care of. Maybe not as great as they could be, but pretty well compared to non-veterans. As Johnny said, nationalism is a slippery slope. Almost 100 years ago right now was when World War I was happening, when nationalism first kind of started, because the world was becoming global and people started to say, yeah, well, what about Germany, Italy, and France, and all. There was this big sweep of national pride, and here we are 100 years later repeating the same events. It's a little scary. It is, honestly, and I hope we avoid disaster, but that's where we are. So, alright, make sure you continue to leave your questions, and I will address them, every once in a while as we go. So,
promised throughout the campaign. To any in Congress who do not believe we should enforce our laws, I would ask you this one question. What would you say to the American family that loses their jobs, their income, or their loved one because America refused to uphold its laws and defend its borders? Our obligation is to serve, protect, and defend the citizens of the United States. We are also taking strong measures to protect our nation from radical Islamic terrorism. According to data provided by the Department of Justice, the vast majority of individuals convicted of terrorism and terrorism-related offenses since 9/11 came here from outside of our country. We have seen the attacks at home, from Boston to San Bernardino to the Pentagon, and yes, even the World Trade Center. We have seen the attacks in France, in Belgium, in Germany, and all over the world. It is not compassionate, but reckless to allow uncontrolled entry from places where proper vetting cannot occur. Those given the high honor of admission to the United States should support this country and love its people and its values. We cannot allow a beachhead of terrorism to form inside America. We cannot allow our nation to become a sanctuary for extremists. That is why my administration has been working on improved vetting procedures, and we will shortly take new steps to keep our nation safe and to keep those out who will do us harm. As promised, I directed the Department of Defense to develop a plan to demolish and destroy ISIS, a network of lawless savages that have slaughtered Muslims and Christians and men and women and children of all faiths and all beliefs. We will work with our allies, including our friends and allies in the Muslim world, to extinguish this vile enemy from our planet. I have also imposed new sanctions on entities and individuals who support Iran's ballistic missile program and reaffirmed our unbreakable alliance with the State of Israel.
That's the Supreme Court there, and they do not look amused at all. That's funny.
Finally, I have kept my promise to appoint a justice to the United States Supreme Court from my list of 20 judges who will defend our Constitution. I am greatly honored to have Maureen Scalia with us in the gallery tonight. Thank you, Maureen. Her late great husband, Antonin Scalia, will forever be a symbol of American justice. To fill his seat, we have chosen Judge Neil Gorsuch, a man of incredible skill and deep devotion to the law. He was confirmed unanimously by the Court of Appeals, and I am asking the Senate to swiftly approve his nomination.
All the Democrat women seem to be wearing white for some reason, if you notice.
Steps we must take as a country. We must honestly acknowledge the circumstances we inherited. 94 million Americans are out of the labor force. Over 43 million people are now living in poverty, and over 43 million Americans are on food stamps. More than 1 in 5 people in their prime working years are not working. We have the worst financial recovery in 65 years. In the last 8 years, the past administration has put on more new debt than nearly all of the other presidents combined. We've lost more than 1/4 of our manufacturing jobs since NAFTA was approved, and we've lost 60,000 factories since China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. Our trade deficit in goods with the world last year was nearly $800 billion. And overseas, we have inherited a series of tragic foreign policy disasters. Solving these and so many other pressing problems will require us to work past the differences of party. It will require us to tap into the American spirit that has overcome every challenge throughout our long and storied history. But to accomplish our goals at home and abroad, we must restart the engine of the American economy, making it easier for companies to do business in the United States and much, much harder for companies to leave our country.
All right, there was a question in the chat of whether or not the women wearing white is coordinated or not. To me, it looks coordinated because they're also wearing some sort of button. I don't know what it says. I'll have to look that up, or someone could look that up really quickly. But it looks very much coordinated because it's every Democrat woman. So when you're looking at the audience, half of them, all the women are wearing white. I don't know what it means yet, but I'm sure we'll find out soon. A few of the things he's said, he likes to radical Islamic terrorism. And then everyone gets up and claps because, oh my God, he's so brave for calling it what it is. Is radical Islamic terrorism a thing? Yes. Does he deserve a standing ovation every time he says it? I don't think so. When he talked about working with our allies more, as A-Shot said, he has been very proudly alienating our allies, like Australia, who has been in every war that the United States has been in, including Vietnam, since the beginning, pretty much. They've gone wherever we go every time, and he yells at them on the phone and hangs up and says that was the worst phone call I've ever had on Twitter. Weird things. Saying that Sweden is having a horrible immigration crisis, and then Sweden says, what are you talking about? Just dumb stuff where the European Union declared President Trump an enemy of the European Union. That's unheard of and obnoxious. He threw out some numbers there. I'm sure these are already being fact-checked. 93 million people are unemployed. That's a third of the country, and that is ridiculous. There is no way that number is correct unless he's counting retired people and children. There's just no way that number is correct. Not a chance. The unemployment rate is 5%, maybe 10%. It's definitely not 30-something%. He said 43 million people are on food stamps. I don't know how accurate that is either. That's 1 in 5 people. That seems a little high, unless, again, he's counting children. This is probably one of the first states of the State of the Union. Which one is it, A-Shot? I know you know English. You have the best words. Is it States of the Union or State of the Unions? Whichever it is. Oh, yeah, you'll let me know. This is probably the first one I've ever heard where someone just dedicates a block of time to trashing on the previous president. Obama didn't do it. Bush didn't do it. I don't remember many of Clinton's. I doubt he did it. It's just kind of not cool to do that. But of course, Trump is a different guy, so he's going to trash on Obama and say that Obama added more debt than any previous president than all time before that. That's just how the debt works. I talked about this in the beginning. every president doubles the debt or increases it way more than the previous president. Obama did it, Bush did it, Clinton did it, Bush 1 did it, Reagan did it big time. They all increase the debt. That's just how the debt works. We're never going to get rid of the debt. It's just how it is. It's not going to go away. But to continuously blame the previous president for adding more debt is just obnoxious because every president does it. That's just how it works. Anyway. It looks like we have an answer. Women wear white in support of women's rights. It's a nice little rhyme. But yeah, it is apparently coordinated. So now we know. Okay.
Based system, we will have so many more benefits. It will save countless dollars, raise workers' wages, and help struggling families, including immigrant families, enter the middle class. And they will do it quickly, and they will be very, very happy indeed. I believe that real and positive immigration reform is possible as long as we focus on the following goals: to improve jobs and wages for Americans, to strengthen our nation's security, and to restore respect for our laws. If we are guided by the well-being of American citizens, then I believe Republicans and Democrats can work together to achieve an outcome that has eluded our country for decades. Another Republican president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, initiated the last truly great national infrastructure program, the building of the interstate highway system. The time has come for a new program of national rebuilding. America has spent approximately $6 trillion in the Middle East. All the while, our infrastructure at home is crumbling. With the $6 trillion, we could have rebuilt our country twice, and maybe even 3 times if we had people who had the ability to negotiate. To launch our national rebuilding, I will be asking Congress to approve legislation that produces a $1 trillion investment in infrastructure of the United States, financed through both public and private capital, creating millions of new jobs. This effort will be guided by 2 core principles: Buy American and Hire American. Tonight, I am also calling on this Congress to repeal and replace Obamacare.
I knew that was coming. I'm surprised it took this long for him to say it.
With reforms that expand choice, increase access, lower costs, and at the same time provide better health care. Mandating every American to buy government-approved health insurance was never the right solution for our country. The way to make health insurance available to everyone is to lower the cost of health insurance, and that is what we are going to do. Obamacare premiums nationwide have increased by double and triple digits. As an example, Arizona went up 116% last year alone. Governor Matt Bevin of Kentucky just said Obamacare is failing in his state, the state of Kentucky, and it's unsustainable and collapsing. 1/3 of the counties have only one insurer, and they're losing them fast. They are losing them so fast. They're leaving. And many Americans have no choice at all. There's no choice left. Remember, when you were told that you could keep your doctor and keep your plan, we now know that all of those promises have been totally broken. Obamacare is collapsing, and we must act decisively to protect all Americans. Action is not a choice, it is a necessity. So I am calling on all Democrats and Republicans in Congress to work with us to save Americans from this imploding Obamacare disaster.
All right, I can only take in so much with the imploding Obamacare disaster, which is just, that's just not accurate. It's just not. Okay, let's start with the requiring everybody to purchase government approved health insurance. All health insurance has to be government approved, even before Obamacare was a thing. Anyway. The individual mandate it's the same as requiring you to buy car insurance. It's the exact same principle. The reason car insurance is cheap is because everyone is required to have it. Lowering cost of health insurance is achieved by having more people using health insurance. The more healthy people there are buying health insurance, the cheaper the cost is. Because they pay in, they don't take out. So the more people in it, the cheaper it is. So requiring everybody to have it was a way to lower the cost. Most people who have health insurance get it through their jobs anyway. So this whole I can't believe I'm required to get health insurance even though I already have health insurance through my job thing requiring people to get health insurance lowers the cost. That's just how it is. He mentioned Kentucky specifically, which, funny enough, I specifically talked about well before this started. It's working great in that state, and the people there love it, and they are now realizing that Connect, K-Y-N-E-C-T, which is their state's run government health insurance exchange, is Obamacare. And now that they find that out, they don't want it repealed. Because you don't get a card. Poe, the Wonder Cat, drew a card for me. An Obamacare card for Wheatley as a joke, because there is no such thing as Obamacare. You don't get an Obamacare card. You get Humana or Blue Cross or whoever it is that you have. So a lot of people don't realize that what they are on is Obamacare. It's not failing. Health insurance prices have gone down unless you're healthy. if you're healthy and you sign up for health insurance for the very first time, and I think that's where the number comes from, because the average person before the ACA was paying $0 for health insurance because they didn't have health insurance. So now that they're paying, $120 a month, oh my God, infinite percent increase. So it's just not. Really quick, the pictures behind me, that's a Protoss, Zergling, and then there's a Terran Marine over there. It's StarCraft. Anyway, let's. Oh, okay. The other thing, the whole, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor promise that Obama gave. That was totally out of his control, not something he should have promised. But I've had to change doctors before Obamacare was a thing because my my doctor changed insurance providers, and the insurance company I was with at the time, Blue Cross, had to flip me over to a new doctor. So it's not Obama's fault that, you couldn't keep the doctor that you had before. It's your insurance company or your doctor for switching who they are. That's why this whole in-network thing that doctors and health insurance companies do, I've never liked. But it's up to them who they accept and who all that. Obama can't control that. Trump certainly can't control it. That's just how it is. I don't like it, but that's how it is. Not something he can control. So, yeah. I know he's going to keep going about it. But blaming the Democrats for this when Obamacare was the Republican plan. That's why they're having such a hard time repealing it, because it's a good plan. When Bill Clinton wanted universal single payer health care, Obamacare was their plan, was the Republican plan. Neither of them passed, but then when Obamacare came about, and he didn't call it Obamacare, but they called it Obamacare, it was their own plan written by themselves 20 years before. So it's just, this stuff annoys me. This political gaming, party politics stuff, blame the previous people for whatever. Way more people have health insurance now than used to. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. Do I say that too many times? Okay. Alright, now I feel bad. Okay.
Megan's story is about the unbounded power of a father's love for a daughter. But our slow and burdensome approval process at the Food and Drug Administration keeps too many advances, like the one that saved Megan's life, from reaching those in need. If we slash the restraints, not just at the FDA, but across our government, then we will be blessed with far more miracles, just like Megan. In fact, our children will grow up in a nation of miracles. But to achieve this future, we must enrich the mind and the souls of every American child. Education is the civil rights issue of our time. I am calling upon members of both parties to pass an education bill that funds school choice for disadvantaged youth, including millions of African American and Latino children. These families should be free to choose the public, private, charter, magnet, religious, or home school that is right for them. Joining us tonight in the gallery is a remarkable woman, Denisha Merriweather. As a young girl, Denisha struggled in school and failed third grade twice. But then she was able to enroll in a private center for learning, Great Learning Center, with the help of a tax credit and a scholarship program. Today, she is the first in her family to graduate not just from high school, but from college. Later this year, she will get her master's degree in social work. We want all children to be able to break the cycle of poverty, just like Denisha.
I know it's been really short. It's been a really short time since I just paused it. To answer Longstem, the ability to read a teleprompter does not give me too much more hope than if he was just winging it. I guess it's a little better, but not, as A Shot said, not much better. But he's talking about something that really kind of strikes a chord with me since I was a teacher. School choice is a thing that really kind of strikes a nerve with me because almost all of the options he mentioned, aside from public, are for profit. And that's what bugs me, is that when you talk about school choice, what you're really talking about is introducing capitalism to education, which does not help schools. It just doesn't. What it does is it does introduce competition, but every parent is going to want their kid in the rich kid school, the smart school. So eventually the public school is going to just go down and down and get worse. And at no fault of the kids or the parents, because obviously you want your kids to go to the best school. Who doesn't? But if you're given that option, all the money is going to go away from the public school and go to a charter school, which are increasingly more for profit now, or private school or religious school or whatever else that he mentioned, and drain from the public schools. And they're just going to get worse and worse. And that's just how it is. In talking about this woman right here, how she's getting her master's and isn't that a great thing, and she failed third grade twice and whatever else, that's a 20-year long story. So Trump can take zero credit for this. She was probably in third grade when Clinton was president, maybe even before that. She got into college probably under Obama. Very little of this is Trump's doing. Probably none of it, really, aside from getting her on TV. So the whole school choice being a help for her isn't so much of a thing. It did say underneath her name that it was a Florida tax credit, so it was a state thing, not a federal thing. He's taking a lot of credit and doing a lot of hammering on things that he has no control over, which is not a good sign. He's saying a lot of those talking point kind of sentences that just sound good no matter who says it, which bugs me. But when it comes to education, that's one of those things that really just, being a teacher, bugs me a lot. School choice is not a good thing, and I'll probably do a video on that at some point because a lot of people have been talking about it recently because of DeVos and Trump and all of that. Choice introduces capitalism, which sounds like a good idea. Competition increases quality, but that's just not true when it comes to a public service like education, because people are only going to want the best, which is going to make the free option, the one that poor people, minorities, have no other choice than to use, is just going to get worse. And that's just the natural cycle of how capitalism works. So this bugs me a little bit, and I hope the plans become more clear as we go. But
We're slain in the line of duty in California. They were pillars of their community. These brave men were viciously gunned down by an illegal immigrant with a criminal record, and 2 prior deportations, should have never been in our country. Sitting with Susan is her daughter, Jenna. Jenna, I want you to know that your father was a hero, and that tonight you have the love of an entire country supporting you and praying for you. To Jamil, Jenna, Susan, and Jessica, I want you to know that we will never stop fighting for justice. Your loved ones will never, ever be forgotten. We will always honor their memory. Finally, to keep America safe, we must provide the men and women of the United States military with the tools they need to prevent war. If they must, they have to fight, and they only have to win. I am sending Congress a budget that rebuilds the military, eliminates the defense sequester, and calls for one of the largest increases in national defense spending in American history. My budget will also increase funding for our veterans. Our veterans have delivered for this nation, and now we must deliver for them. The challenges we face as a nation are great, but our people are even greater. And none are greater or braver than those who fight for America in uniform. We are blessed to be joined tonight by Corinne Owens, the widow of U.S. Navy Special Operator, Senior Chief William Ryan Owens. Ryan died as he lived, a warrior and a hero, battling against terrorism and securing our nation. I just spoke to our great General Mattis just now, who reconfirmed that, and I quote, Ryan was a part of a highly successful raid that generated large amounts of vital intelligence that will lead to many more victories in the future against our enemy. Ryan's legacy is etched into eternity. Thank you. Thank you.
This is a really long applause break. Wow. One of the things the news is going to talk about is how many minutes of clapping and applause there was in his speech, as opposed to how many breaks there are. And this is quite long. And I feel really bad because she's barely hanging on. You can just tell by looking at her. She's near breakdown.
And Ryan is looking down right now. You know that. And he's very happy because I think he just broke a record. For as the Bible teaches us, there is no greater act of love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. Ryan laid down his life for his friends, for his country, and for our freedom. And we will never forget Ryan.
Okay, I pointed out that applause break was quite long. It's hard not to, you can't not applaud for a Navy SEAL who laid down his life for his country. You can't not. That's why the whole room is standing up, not just half. And it's totally okay for them to applaud that long, if that's what they want to do. But for Trump to point out, I think he just broke a record, hint, hint, wink, wink, referring to the applause break, that's probably going to be one of the things that the media hammers on him tomorrow for. That was pretty uncool of him. I will say that, well, if you don't already know, he's referring to the operation in Yemen a few weeks ago, which has been widely considered to be a blunder. First of all, it was an operation planned under Obama that as soon as Trump heard about it, he said, let's do it, and it failed miserably, which is why he's hammering so much on. It was such a great victory. And then side note, also a great thing that Ryan did for his country, which of course it is, but he's like really hammering on that so that you forget the fact that it was a pretty big screw up. A lot of people have been saying that it's on the same level of Benghazi. It was such a poorly executed plan. I'm not trying to crap on his memory or anything. Of course, I think that what he did was a selfless sacrifice, but I think Trump is playing it politically, and I don't like that at all. So, yeah, and he's using her, as was commented in the chat. Every president does this. Whenever they want to try to push something, they bring a police officer's widow or someone who made it through impossible odds to get through college or wouldn't be alive today if not for this healthcare law. They all do that. That's pretty normal. So not all that unexpected here. But this one bothers me because he's playing into it way too much. And that poor woman is barely holding on. You can just see it in her face. Like it's still very real for her. And she's not past grieving. And he's like, everyone look at her and clap for her, which has got to be super embarrassing on top of what else is going on for that poor woman. But there you go.
Not war and conflict. We want peace wherever peace can be found. America is friends today with former enemies. Some of our closest allies decades ago fought on the opposite side of these terrible, terrible wars. This history should give us all faith in the possibilities for a better world. Hopefully, the 250th year for America will see a world that is more peaceful, more just, and more free. On our 100th anniversary in 1876, citizens from across our nation came to Philadelphia to celebrate America's centennial. At that celebration, the country's builders and artists and inventors showed off their wonderful creations. Alexander Graham Bell displayed his telephone for the first time. Remington unveiled the first typewriter. An early attempt was made at electric light. Thomas Edison showed an automatic telegraph and an electric pen. Imagine the wonders our country could know in America's 250th year. Think of the marvels we can achieve if we simply set free the dreams of our people. Cures to the illnesses that have always plagued us are not too much to hope. American footprints on distant worlds are not too big a dream. Millions lifted from welfare to work is not too much to expect. And streets where mothers are safe from fear, schools where children learn in peace, and jobs where Americans prosper and grow are not too much to ask. When we have all of this, we will have made America greater than ever before. For all Americans, this is our vision. This is our mission. But we can only get there together. We are one people with one destiny. We all bleed the same blood. We all salute the same great American flag. And we all are made by the same God. When we fulfill this vision, when we celebrate our 250 years of glorious freedom, we will look back on tonight as when this new chapter of American greatness began. The time for small thinking is over. The time for trivial fights is behind us. We just need the courage to share the dreams that fill our hearts, the bravery to express the hopes that stir our souls, and the confidence to turn those hopes and those dreams into action. From now on, America will be empowered by our aspirations, not burdened by our fears, inspired by the future, not bound by failures of the past, and guided by a vision, not blinded by our doubts. I am asking all citizens to embrace this renewal of the American spirit. I am asking all members of Congress to join me in dreaming big and bold and daring things for our country. I am asking everyone watching tonight to seize this moment, believe in yourselves, believe in your future, and believe once more in America. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the United States.
And that concludes
Look how
President
quickly
Trump's
the
address to a
Democrats are
joint
bolting out of
session
there.
of Congress, his first address to a joint session. Coming up in just a few minutes will be the Democrats' response. It will be delivered by the former governor of Kentucky, Steve Beshear. And a woman named Astrid Silva, she was brought to the United States as a child without legal documentation, one of the Dreamers. She's now an immigration activist. She will deliver the Democrats' Spanish language response. Still joining me here at the NewsHour table in Washington are Mark Shields, David Brooks, Amy.
Okay, so luckily the ending there, he didn't. I can't say that there was much substance in his speech. It was a lot of, I'm asking America to believe again, which who's not going to clap to that? I mean, it's a meaningless phrase. I'm asking Americans to share the American dream with me. Anybody could say that, and of course everyone's going to clap because what does that even mean? It doesn't. It's not. There's not much substance to that other than it's just a nice phrase. Of course, he said some things that you can't disagree with. Having Americans go back to work, who can disagree with that? Where you can prosper and blah blah blah. Letting children learn and grow in a safe environment. Of course, who wouldn't support that? But these are just, political statements without much substance. They just sound nice. You need to tell us, like, here's what I want to do. I want to increase funding for charter schools, if that's what you want to do. I would disagree, but at least that's a policy thing that I can look at the merits and have an informed debate about. But when you just say stuff like, we need to unleash our dreams, it's fluffy and doesn't mean much of anything. Supporting veterans, who's not going to clap and support that idea? Of course, but you need to tell us what you want to do. You want to double VA payments? What do you want to? You have to propose something, and that's typically what a State of the Union does. Is the president will get up there and say, "I'm asking Congress to pass a law that does A, B, and C." Instead, Mr. Trump took this opportunity to say, I'm asking that Congress set aside their petty differences. Okay, I mean, what American doesn't want Congress to set aside their petty differences? But it doesn't. That doesn't mean anything. I don't need the headphones anymore because I'm not listening to anything. He did, yes. He did say that he wants healthcare reform. And the one thing he brought up was that he wants to get rid of the individual mandate, and the individual mandate is that's like the key component of the ACA. That's what keeps healthcare costs down, is all the people paying into it who don't necessarily use it. That's what keeps costs down. That's why your car insurance is so cheap, because everyone pays into it and they don't get into accidents. If you use your car insurance more often, it gets more expensive. That's how car insurance works, and that's how health insurance works. More people who pay into it, the lower the cost for everybody. The more you use it, the more expensive it is for you. I don't necessarily agree with that part of it, but that's how insurance pools work. And the Republican, at least from what we know about what their plan is, they want to get rid of the mandate, but they want to introduce a penalty for not having continuous coverage. So if you get off of health insurance, it's incredibly more expensive for you to get back on. Some sort of incentive to keep you in. So whether that's a penalty for leaving your insurance or a legal requirement making you have insurance, honestly, it's just the same thing by a different name or a different penalty for getting off of insurance and trying to get back onto it. To me, all it seems like they want to do is repeal it, rename it, and introduce it again. But take credit for it this time because it was a Republican thing. We don't know the specifics of the Republican plan yet because they still haven't put things out, which is why there was a question about effective dissent. I think that was Longstem's question. Going to see your congressperson in their town halls, if they're holding them, is an effective way. Don't scream and yell and throw stuff, but tell them what is you want to repeal and replace. That's fine. Tell me what you're going to replace it with. Unfortunately, their answer is something better which is not helpful. But from the things that we have heard from Congressman Ryan's proposals, we know that there's going to be some sort of continuing coverage incentive or penalty. So they're going to get rid of the individual mandate and have something just as restrictive or penalizing there. So it's not much of a difference. He talked about how he wants to increase school choice, which I did talk about, how I disagree with. I'll probably do a video on that. People have asked me to do videos on the education system for a while now, and having been a teacher, I can tell you, there's a lot of things. My main concern with education is that they need to stop trying to fix it, because it worked fine 20, 30 years ago, and every attempt they make at fixing it makes it worse. It's like having a leaking pipe in your house, and you just keep wrapping it with duct tape, and well, it's still leaking, so let's wrap it with more duct tape. No, eventually you just gotta put in a new pipe, or essentially go back to the way it was. And I feel like No Child Left Behind, Common Core, all of these are putting duct tape on the pipe and not fixing the pipe. And I think having school choice where the money follows the student, so they can go to private school and government will fund that, which is a horrible idea. Charter school, which is only slightly better. Most charter schools are privately run now, so they are public, but the money goes to a private company. I worked for one of these. Horrible idea, and it's just not it. I live in a town where there's a few charter schools and the public schools. The public schools is fine, but of course everyone wants to get into the charter school. So if there's more charter school choices, everyone's going to leave the public schools, and the money's going to follow the student to the charter school, and the public school is going to be drained and just get worse. And since that's the one that poor people, and especially minorities, are forced to go to because they don't have any other options, that school is just going to get worse. And that's capitalism. The idea behind capitalism is that you introduce several competing stores or schools in the same market. The good ones rise up, the bad ones eventually go bankrupt and fall away. The problem is, when it comes to a public service like education, the bad ones going bankrupt and falling away means the public school, and that's a horrible thing to have happen. You have to shore up the public school, because that's a lot of people's only options. So I disagree with his education plans. His health plan, I wish I could give you a more detailed analysis of it, but we just don't have enough details on what he wants to do and what the Republicans want to do, aside from get rid of the mandate and replace it with something else. Let's see, there was a few comments here in the last few minutes. We talk about his use of the veteran widow. Not a fan of that. Was very cringy. Of course, I feel for that woman, but saying like that's a record applause break right there. That was not cool. Probably unscripted. Of course, I hope it was unscripted. If he put that in the script, that would be horrible, like way worse. But yeah, so any final questions or thoughts? Long stems, I did write down your political action idea. I might turn that into a video depending on how things go. I've been trying not to do so many Trump videos lately, because it is kind of a bummer, and I'm no fan of Trump, as I've made clear. I know a lot of people think that I'm super far left, and I'm definitely not. I consider myself to be center left. I've voted for Republicans and Democrats. I'm not a big fan of the social justice and political correct movement. I've had my criticisms of left movements. My biggest video yet was 2 videos criticizing No Dapple, which was, you know, I got some hate, I got some fans out of that one, but that was a criticism of the left. When I made a video on the danger of third-party voting, because I was worried that people voting for Johnson and Stein were going to make Trump win. I didn't say that, but I said don't vote for third party just because you don't like Democrats and Republicans. And sure enough, had Jill Stein not been a thing, Hillary Clinton would have won the Electoral College. So I accurately predicted that, but people in the comments were saying this guy's clearly a Trump supporter, which is funny because it was the exact opposite. How has my opinion of Trump changed since the election? My main thing with Trump since the election is that now he's president. I don't think that he stole the election or anything like that. He won under the way the system works. I disagree with the way the system works, but it is the way the system works. So I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, he's hashtag not my president. He is our president, whether, you know, for better or for worse, he is. My opinion of him has changed, though, because he, as I said, he is now the president. So he is supposed to be acting different, but he's acting the exact same as he did when he was running. Almost everything he said tonight was campaign stump speeches, pretty much. You know, not empty promises, but what's the wording I'm going for here? Things that everybody can agree with. They sound nice. He attacks previous presidents. He didn't tonight talk about Hillary Clinton, so I'll give him points for that, I guess. But he still trashed on Obama, which is kind of not a cool thing to do. Nobody does that in their State of the Union addresses. Whether you like the previous president or not, there's no point in trash talking the past one because they're not the president anymore. It doesn't matter. You're in charge now. You know, step up. So what bugs me is that now he's the president, he needs to stop campaigning and actually do things. And so far, all I've seen him do is campaign more. My thoughts on the Russian hacking. I don't know the extent of the Russian hacking. I know that our voting machines were not hacked. Well, I can't say I know that. I highly doubt that the Russians directly influenced the vote counts, if you know what I mean. When it comes to Russian hacking, what they obviously did was they did the DNC emails. They put out fake stories to help turn people against Hillary Clinton and pro-Trump. The DNC emails is obvious hacking. The fake news stories aren't really hacking unless you consider it like a social hacking. They definitely did influence our election. There's no doubt there, and I think an investigation needs to be done. Flynn's, the National Security Advisor's contact with the Russians and the Trump's campaign's contact with the Russians is concerning and needs to be investigated. Think about if the situation was reversed and it was Hillary who won and Hillary's National Security Advisor who was talking to the Russians during the campaign. There would be fires and pitchforks and torches everywhere, and the fact that that's not happening because it's the Republican president bugs me a lot. Because were the situation reversed, it would be chaos, and you can't say that it wouldn't be, because you can look up tweets from people who are saying civil war if Hillary wins, or overthrow the government if Hillary wins. If she wins, she stole the election, etc., etc. those things, you know, you can't say those things and then, oh, well, Trump won, so none of that matters anymore. Yeah, Trump won, and he's doing things that would infuriate people if the other side did it. So there at least has to be an investigation, at least one. They investigated Hillary Clinton over Benghazi 9 times, and she was exonerated all 9 times. There should be at least one investigation into this. You can't just sweep it under the rug. Investigate it, and if he's exonerated, I'll be like, okay, it's over. That's how I feel anyway. But there needs to be an investigation. This is a whole video topic in itself, Johnny. I disagree with the Electoral College. What do I think a good replacement would be is the popular vote. I disagree with the Electoral College because I think the idea of states' rights is an antiquated idea that worked when people were born, lived, and died in the same town for their whole lives. If they moved, they were still in the same state. People considered themselves to be Virginians or New Yorkers, and before Americans. In World War I, World War II, people still referred to themselves as Virginians or Texans. It really wasn't until World War II that people started calling themselves Americans. I don't like the idea of, states have their place, but the idea that the smaller states need to be protected against the bigger states, that's just I think that's an idea that gone away 100 years ago, when all of a sudden you could teleport from one side of the country to the next in 4 hours. Not teleport, obviously, but you can, if you live in LA, you can fly to New York, do a full day's work, and come back and still be home in time for dinner. So if something is illegal in New York, it only affects you for half of your day. If something is illegal in your state, you just drive across the magic line and get whatever it is that you want. I live in a state where the neighboring state fireworks are illegal. So what do? There's all these fireworks stands right on our side of the border. So people from that state where fireworks are illegal can just drive the 20 minutes, get their fireworks, and go right back. So the idea of states, and it's illegal on this side, not illegal on this side, and it's a 20-minute drive. I think states themselves aren't an antiquated idea, but the fact that my state needs to be protected from California because they have way too many people. Well, we're all Americans now. And if you don't like your state, you can just leave, and it would take you less than a day. And so when it comes to the Electoral College, Wyoming gets 3 votes, Montana gets 3 votes, Alaska gets 3 votes, because there's not that many people there. CGP Grey has done several videos on the Electoral College, and if all you do is win the flyover states and you miss California, New York, Florida, Texas, or whatever else, you can still win the Electoral College while only getting like 20% of the popular vote. And a system where that's possible is a broken system. If you can get 20% of the popular vote but still win the Electoral College, there's something very, very broken about that. I don't think smaller states need to be protected from larger states when it comes to who the president is, because that's the only time the Electoral College matters, is when it comes to the president. So what do I think would be a better system is either the voting districts need to be not state specific. So it's hard to use my hands and do this. But if it was one electoral vote for every however many, 500,000 people, whatever it is, and they were divided up based on geography rather than state borders, um, that would be a better system. Um, or if we just went straight popular vote, I think that would. There's no reason not to have that anymore. And the Electoral College was set up so that if the people voted for someone who turned out to be mentally unstable or turned out to not be a good fit, the electors, the people who actually vote for president in December 19th, something like that, could not vote for that person. That's what the system was set up for. You know, we like to say it's a symbolic, antiquated whatever thing now, but it's set up so that if we elect someone who, it turns out, had a lobotomy or whatever else, the electors would make the right choice. And a lot of people think that the Electoral College system failed them when it came to this election because perhaps they should have voted for who the popular vote picked. I knew that there was no way the electors were going to go against the way the Electoral College was set up. So I didn't participate in that protest or whatever. I haven't participated in any protests, to be honest, but I knew that trying to get the electors to change their minds wasn't something that was going to happen. But I think like I said, you either have to switch the Electoral College voting ranges from states to geography, population density, whatever, where, yeah, California is going to have more votes than Wyoming or Montana. And that's just because of population. You know, more people want that person. I mean, think about where you live, what state you're in. Were you born there? Have you lived there forever? What about your friends? Are they all from that state? People move around so much now that the idea of, well, we're, Texans and we have our values. It's like, yeah, but like half of the people who live there weren't raised there. Same with California, New York, whatever. People, geography is so fluid now because we have all of these great transportation systems that I think the idea of states' rights and a state identity is kind of old. And the idea of protecting states when it comes to picking the president is old and maybe needs to be reformed a little bit. Alongside my very first video, my very first YouTube video was on gerrymandering, and I talked about kind of this system, how we need to change the way it's done, because right now it's drawn by the people who get elected for that seat. So of course they're going to draw the lines on the map to make themselves win, and they're not going to support a system where they may not win. So it's difficult to try and support a ranked voting system or getting rid of gerrymandering, because the people who would change that are the people who benefit from the way the system is right now. So they're not going to try it as hard. I think one of the very last lines of that video was, I don't know, maybe you should support people who are willing to shoot themselves in the foot. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren seem like those kind of people. They'd rather have a fair system than win again. I'm sure there are Republicans who are willing to support that as well, but they're probably, they certainly aren't as vocal about it, that's for sure. I have not been following Canadian politics, unfortunately. I can't say I worry about more celebrities running for office because of Trump. What I do worry about is more nationalist people running for office, which you're seeing a lot in Europe. I don't know what's going on in Canada, honestly. I'd have to look into it. I mean, I really like Trudeau. I do like him a lot. But I do worry about the populist, nationalist people who are running for office. I mean, we saw it in Brexit. We're seeing it in France with her name is escaping me right now, but she's a woman. Someone knows who I'm talking about, but she's the nationalist, populist, borderline racist candidate. There's one in the Netherlands. We're seeing it pop up a lot in places because of Trump, and it bothers me. Brexit wasn't because of Trump, but I think that was kind of the first sign that we were headed in this direction. When Brexit happened, that's when I started to worry that Trump might actually win. I really didn't think he was going to win, though. I really didn't. But then again, nobody did. I mean, every poll I saw put, yes, thank you, Le Pen. Every poll that I saw said that Clinton was going to win, so I was like, oh, maybe he won't. But it didn't surprise me when he did win. And the fact that we're seeing more nationalist, populist, racist candidates starting to get a lot of traction in places like the Netherlands and France and who knows where else. I mean, Chechnya, all of those. It bothers me because this is the exact same thing that happened for World War I. This is the same setup, so it does bother me. And seeing that's another thing. Actually, I should give him credit for not attacking the media during this speech. I really expected him to do that, and he didn't. I talked about that a lot before the speech began. I expected him to trash on Hillary. I expected him to trash on the media, and he did neither of those things. So credit where credit is due, I guess. That's a step in the right direction, but it wouldn't surprise me if he started tweeting stuff like the media is not reporting on how many standing ovations I got, even though most of them were only half standing ovations, as A-Shot pointed out, which is pretty typical. That happened under Obama. It happened under Bush. His party stands up. The other party stays sitting unless you mention things that are universal. Veterans and God. Those are the two that always get full standing ovations. So, still, I'm surprised he didn't attack the media. I expect him to still do something like that tomorrow, tonight, 3 a.m. or whatever in typical Trump fashion. But, yeah. So I'll open it up for any last questions. But other than that, I thank all of you for joining. If you're not subscribed, please check out my videos. Hopefully you'll like them if you stayed with us. Do you think we're headed for another large-scale war? No, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to have another large-scale war in our lifetimes. I've read several books about World War II, and I'm probably going to make a video about this at some point. The reason World War I was not the war to end all wars is because the technology didn't change much. I mean, yeah, we got bombs and airplanes, I guess. So I guess it did change a little bit, but we didn't have weapons of mass destruction like we do now. We're never going to have another war like World War II where we charge a beachhead with 8 million people or whatever. That's not correct. It's like 2 or 3 million. We're never going to have that again. Because why? If you charge any beachhead with 100,000 people, one nuclear bomb is going to take care of that. So nobody's going to ever want to mobilize a force that big because they'll lose it way too quickly because we have nuclear weapons now. So I don't think we're headed towards a large-scale war like that ever again. We're going to see more Iraqs, Afghanistans, Ukraines. We're probably going to see more of those, though. Small scale and probably ethnically charged conflicts like that. I don't think we're headed towards a major war. At least I hope not, because if we are, it's going to be the last one. And I know people say that all the time, But with the weapons we have now, with the technology we have now, our militaries are set up for small-scale conflicts, not large-scale tank battles, because yeah, if you have 1,000 tanks headed towards you, you're not going to line up your 1,000 tanks. You're going to nuke them. That's just how it is. I like that as a new slogan for the channel. It's nice. I do say that a lot, I guess. My voice is calm and rational. People say that a lot. I hope you stick around. I don't think the next 4 years will end up in disaster, though. I think we'll get through it. Hopefully that. What I worry about is the social damage that Trump has caused and will continue to cause by fueling the national pride, the racial pride, and these attacks on minorities, religious minorities, racial minorities. I worry about those things. But hopefully we'll get through them as best we can. But again, thanks everybody for joining. Feel free to continue to leave your questions and comments. I'll get to them as I can. I read all of your comments, even the bad ones. Even when you leave like huge novels, I read all of it. Unless you call me some choice names, then I'll probably ignore you. But if it's cool, calm, rational argument, I welcome that. And I hope you stick around my channel and continue to leave even dissenting opinions. I welcome those, as long as they're informed and rational. So, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining me tonight. I hope you learned something. And I hope to see you again in the future. Bye.